we'll talk a little bit about the maps because that's one of the important factors. To see the first one to be banned off will be Coastline, followed by Cafe. Thank you very much. And then Sinisters will go ahead and take out Oregon.
Yeah, well, I think what we're seeing from Sinister's right is just taking away that sort of aggressive standpoint that that Mirage seem to excel in, right? Coastline and Oregon, two very fast-paced maps, especially Coastline, where all the peaks are just going to be coming all over the place. Meanwhile, for Mirage Scouts, right, we're actually seeing that newest map added to the map pool, which thank God Consulate has been yeeted out of here because, like, you hate Cafe, I hate Consulate in equal amount. So Bank has been taken off the board. Also, Chalet. So again, Scott, that you love Chalet so much, but unfortunately, Sinister just don't want to deal with that aggression. And with Clubhouse rounding out the bans for Mirage Scouts, that leaves one final map on the board, and that's going to be Villa. So we're heading back to Italy, and I'm interested to see, how are they going to play this? Is it going to differ so much from last map, or are we going to see a little bit of the same old, same old?
I'm sorry, I'm still sad about that. I'm still sorry. It's the Chalet. I didn't get to see Chalet. It's fine. I'll recover. But if I swear, if third game comes up and Chalet is picked, I am going to be seething. I'm going to be so angry that you got to cast Chalet without me, SMH. That is I'm terrible about that map. I still barely know all the call outs, right? But that is my favorite map. I will just rave about that map all day. Yeah, I mean, with Villa, the same train, we've already seen it. So a lot of our commentary is probably going to be around the same, but with these two different teams, two different play styles, obviously, it could be about 30 different play styles, honestly, because we saw a lot of different strategies come out in the map in game one. But I think we're going to see some interesting things. We talked about dining and kitchen, that tertiary objective. There's some variation. We did actually see them kind of drop in from Skylight, take that central hall and work towards there. I think that's something we could see again, but I think it may just be a more standard pantry rush like we had seen. It was a bit of a pincer, a forward momentum, something like, like this, to try and work with. But you looked away for a second and almost didn't see it. I mean, there's plenty of strategies you can bring out, and I think that's definitely one that's still viable, but I'm not sure if either of these sides are necessarily going to go for it.
Definitely not. It's going to be interesting, especially with Sinister starting on that defensive side. So unfortunately, Monster Girl is going to have to try and find her kills in some sort of different way. Maybe she'll try the other explosives, which is those frag grenades. Maybe she excels. Maybe she's going to be the next Tom Brady, bringing out those different throwables. But one of the throwables has been taken off the board, right? That's going to be Thatcher. No surprise there. We've seen it time and time again. If we see a Flores here, then I was going to say Deja Vu, Scott, but unfortunately, it's not going to be Flores. It's instead the Nomad, which can play dividends on this map in its own right? Because of how many flanking angles are available to the defensive side. That could potentially spell a lot of danger for anyone that tries to lurk for a little bit too long. Meanwhile, we're going to see Mira being banned out on the defensive side. No surprises there. Once again, Mira being just the most influential operator, because if you're allowed to get close enough to a Mira shield to punch that thing out and make that glass not see-through anymore, then you're probably not doing your job as a defense. Valkyrie will round out our defensive bans, and again, it's just all about that information, trying to deny that and making nitro cells or whatever it may be a little bit more difficult for Sinister.
Man, seeing Nomad get banned is just, I feel like I'm 6 months back and, only casting for about 3 months. The strategy on Villa's rotated around and you're denying the roaming game on the second floor, the denial of the roaming game on the second floor because, place an air jab on that staircase, astronomy staircase, and you've essentially shut down any roam game. And that's no longer an option, taken out to the wayside. And it's going to be a lot more like that style that was 6 months ago. Of course, the biggest difference will probably be the fact that there is a Flores available to be played and actually will be getting picked up. 6 picked over to maybe try and disguise the pick, but I don't think it's that much of a shocker to know that they're going to bring it. If it's left up, it's going to be played. And speaking of it's left up, the strategy may be left up in the air as well, because the tertiary of tertiary objectives, or as Chief would call it, quaternary objective, is being in play right now, which is a big something, that's for sure. That's normal.
Only a word that financial analysts would know, right?
True.
Like, that's only a word that Chief would
actually.
Ever
I think
bring out
Sticula has openly admitted he's the one who taught him that word.
I don't like that. It seems like clumsy. I don't know. Like,
I know, right?
It's
like everyone says, "Don't say that." I'm like, I agree.
Yeah, I love Stickler and Chief, but like that just seems like a mouthful when whenever you're trying to make calls or like whenever you're trying to describe the bomb site that we're playing on, which is the living room and library. Well, that just seems pretty clumsy. But well, Sinister are going to have to prove that they're not as clumsy as us, because one thing goes wrong on this defense, and well, Mirage Scouts are going to sweep on through and take all of that control. That is one of those things that's just you're susceptible to when you're taking this library bomb site first, right? It's just there's so many points of entry that you can take on, and there's a lot of potential for just someone to be caught out because there are too many angles to watch on this bomb site. Let's see how Mirage Scouts are going to approach this.
You can see them kind of playing somewhat extended. They've got some players up on the second floor. Sinister Red are doing a good job of making it so that they can't just clear the floorboards and then drop a couple nades down to catch them out of those back positions. They're able to turtle up. They're able to anchor. And if Mirage Scouts wants to actually have any sort of success when they push, they do need to get rid of the players on the second floor. I believe there's 2 of them actually sitting up there and rotating. Mostly near landing. Obviously, that's where 2 zeros may lie right now, but could head towards Statuary. And Sinister Red, they've got themselves set up for a position of success. Mirage Scouts had the information entering. They had a drone right in front, and they were able to follow in as they entered. I was going to comment on that as well, as it was good place down. You need to gather the information as you progress forward, and you've got a lineup that can do that exceptionally well. You've got, obviously, Gemini replicators or Taro drones, which are being used as information gatherers instead of utility destroyers, which is a little bit odd in its own way, but you've got a lot that can work with that, as well as the normal drone pockets, but you'll also be able to pick up the first frag as well. Somehow, Monster Girl coming in on top of that engagement against 2 zeros, and will give Mirage Scouts actually the man advantage going into this.
I wasn't really expecting that, Red. It seemed like 2 zeros had she had the advantage going into that gunfight. I think it was just a better flick onto the head from Monster Girl and a little bit of damage traded, but not much else. She's also used her Ken Oprah of a charge. I'm not sure exactly where that went down. I'm looking for that hard wall. If they have went down upstairs, who knows? But they still have one more roamer to deal with upstairs, and that's going to be Brittany, who is currently running for her life, but she has to watch how she rotates because she could potentially be met with bullets if she doesn't watch this main hall so effectively. But no, all that will be traded as a little bit of pleasantries as well. The shots are being traded, but no damage. Actually, Tabby taking a just a tiny bit there, nothing to be calling home about, nothing to have to call your doctor over. But with that, Brittany was going to make her way back onto the site, and Mirage, well, it seems like they've been caught a little bit off guard by this site pick, because right now they're kind of in a state of kind of just stopping in their tracks. But as I say that, Monster Girl opened things back up. Lady Brutal will go down, and Monster Girl is continuing that reign of terror, but unfortunately her position has been given away by shooting one of those prismas, which means that, well, Monster Girl could be potentially in a tough position, but that doesn't seem to matter, right? Mirage have full control, and just as I say they're starting to stall out, well, they proved me exactly wrong. All they were doing was setting up for that little bit of a pinch, and Monster Girl popping off for 3 kills definitely was the sort of opener there.
What a great way to end that round off. I mean, you can kind of say that round was going to go in that direction when Mirage was able to find the first pick, but that was almost a pick that wasn't really expected. It was kind of something crazy because 2 zeros deserve that kill. She had the drop on them, and Monster Girl just finds the head and is able to get that instant kill and is able to stay alive for the 3K ultimately in the end. It was almost a buddy ass, as some people like Cass would like to call it, but no, instead it'll be Tabby and I believe who Cassie was able to find it, or was it Arrow? I can't remember the last one was, but it was in fact having 3 players really stand out for that side and be able to find in that win, and that's what you need, and that's something that's difficult to do on the attack, mind you. Keep in mind, Mirage is being able to step forward, find opening picks, deny roam on Sinister Red, all of this without having a nomad behind them to work with. They don't have air taps. They've got to work with some extra tertiary assistance to watch the rear. And the way that they're doing that is they're playing with zeros. They're working in to gather that information to watch the flank. That's what you need to do. But meanwhile, while Monster Girl's watching that flank with those cameras, it's also stepping up and finding kills. The fact that you're able to make an impact in more than one section of the field or map, so to say, is something that is extremely important when it comes down to decision making and strategy making, because you can start to build up strategies entirely around that one player who's able to step up and do that role exceptionally well.
Well, hopefully for the rest of Sinister, they can step up, right? Because they had that whole setup going to library. Maybe I thought they were catching Mirage Scouts a little bit off guard, but that just simply wasn't the case, right? Mirage Scouts did a very good job at adjusting. Granted, it all came down to them finding that kill on the top floor, like you said. But overall, I think it was still a very good effort from Mirage Scouts and from Sinister, really, too. But again, we need to see that MVP performance from Queen. She's currently sitting at 0-1. Yes, you can't make any assumptions off of one round performance, but we've been seeing this horizontal take over and over again, haven't we, Scott? It just seems to be that sort of meta hold that you're going to see on Villa time and time again. But again, they're not playing it as aggressively, right? They didn't seem to extend into statuary. They're instead trying to play around this 90 hallway a little bit, which is you're giving up a lot of real estate, but if you're allowed to shut down these eagles, that's going to spell a lot of success for your team.
A great way to kind of deny some of these outlets that the attacking team may have is to set yourself up in landing, but unfortunately landing also has a little bit too many sight lines, and unfortunately for the side of Brittany, they try to escape from that position and they're failed in the process, now being trapped down inside that living room, and they'll be finished off as they try to crawl away towards Memo, and it'll be the side of Cavi who gets the job done. And sets themselves up again. Mirage Scouts with another man advantage going into the round. Fairly early on, a minute and a half now have passed, but it's going to allow them to set up now as they attempt to push towards this classical Hall 90, which is where Pyromaniac is currently lying. She has a very important position now. This is a very aggressive position, what I would call a macro angle, and it's going to definitely determine how the side of Mirage are going to try to attack this. You can see the shield from where Monster Girl's position is, but tossing a nade is just going to finish the job and finish things off. Pyromaniac's too close, needed to take a step back, and honestly, I think that shield should have been on the other side of that hallway. It may have given you the sight line for Monster Girl the entire time, but at the very least, you could have rotated back around Classical 90 in a backwards position and actually still be alive.
Most certainly there wasn't a lot of flexibility inside of that angle, right? With Monster Girl watching them rotate out behind that shield, that spelled just a lot of danger. Now, do they know that Queen is sitting inside of this corner? That could spell a lot of danger for anyone that's sitting on Monster Girl's side, or on the Mirage side, excuse me. But, well, they have a lot of man advantage to work around, right? They have a relative pinch onto the rest of the site, and they seem to be getting a bunch of things open as well. You can see that the vault has actually been open, so that makes Sinister's positions even more brutal to play behind. And, well, we're seeing a little bit of a flip in the script, right? As Cavi is going to fall, she was playing on that buck, trying to take a little bit of vertical control, but unfortunately nothing happening for them. Now, Queen finds one, but Mirage Scouts still continue that fury, and Lady Brutal, it's all down to you. She knows that Victoria is trying to get that plant down, but the swing's coming through. Unfortunately, not able to win out that fight against the Ayana, and Mirage Scouts are going to take 2 in a row. Now, Scott, it was a very effective clear. We saw how just effective and how, furiously they were taking onto that master bedroom side. They also cleared out 90, so they really allowed themselves just a lot of time. A minute is a decade inside of Siege there, Scott. And, well, unfortunately, the minutes are going by because I can feel it, Scott. You're about to leave my presence. Don't leave me, Scott.
Don't go into the light. Don't go into the light. Unfortunately, the lights are all around me already. I have giant studio lights around me that are kind of like going around.
I've always admired your lighting setup.
Thank you. I try to make sure that it keeps me well lit. I can. You've got the standard tried and true gamer setup of having like LED light strips and having that a lit background kind of with the LEDs, but you yourself are using just a single like ring light. And I was like, I could do that, but I'm really close to my wall behind me, so the LED strips don't get enough illumination to really give that effect. So I said, okay, instead I'll just go full sin with the lights. And so I said, hey, can I get some lights for like Christmas or something? Got them. Giant studio lights, basically the only thing I got. Actually, that's not true, but it was really lit me up. They've lasted me forever, and I am absolutely just gonna get new bulbs for them because I'm sure they're about to die with how much I have to cast and use them. But they work really well. I'd recommend it.
Hopefully they don't die. Hopefully they
I would
die
sure
while
hope so.
we're doing this.
Yeah, I would sure hope they don't die. That would be very awkward. It's just like in the middle of it, just like dying. Sometimes if the power flickers, they'll flicker on and off. And then my other computer will shut down, but the other one won't. It's interesting. I don't understand the math behind that about power, but it'll like one of them will just turn off and the other one stays on magically for some reason. But Well, obviously with a new round, as we'll jump back to a little bit more, commentary about the game, so to say. One of the great things we saw there from Mirage Scouts was their ability to, I guess, swing into sites with pincers. You saw they were able to find one kill. Queen was able to take one, but they were immediately refragged back by Victoria. And Victoria's been able to do that because they're setting themselves up to fight engagements, not as like a 1-on-1, but as a 2-on-1 or even 3-on-1. And that just gets easier for them when they're splitting themselves up like Sinister Red is doing and falling early, which then puts them into a 5-on-2 or 5-on-3 on the site. And Mirage Scouts are just saying, hey, this is our moment to shine. We're going to take care of it and get the job done. And they've been doing that spectacularly.
Pyra already feeling a little bit of pressure. She's sitting in one of the most dangerous corners inside of Siege, but it can also be one of the most profitable. And actually, she's allowed to rotate out. I'm not sure if there was a lapse in coverage there or whatnot from Mirage Scouts, but Pyra Maniac will live to fight another day. And she's going to become one of those anchor players that we've sort of been highlighting inside of this game, right? All the roamers have been, well, relatively a non-factor so far for Sinister Red. It's been just really good clears from Mirage Scouts, a lot of good teamwork, but unfortunately, they're going to have one girl less to play around because Cavi is going to go down. She has struggled in those opening engagements, currently sitting at 1-3, and well, the Twitch is not necessarily someone that you want to lose, right? That F2 does absolute bits. It has one of the best fire rates in the game, and frankly, it's one of the best guns despite how much recoil it has, but unfortunately, that won't be a factor inside of this round. It's going to depend on the rest of Mirage to pull things back, but again, we're seeing a little bit of a change of pace right now. They're struggling up against the sort of angles and the sort of utility play that we're seeing from Sinister, and they're really looking for answers. Hopefully Monster Girl can try to open things up, and what a way to do so. That's 3 kills, potentially 4. No, the diffuser is down and in a very bad spot, might I add, Scott. In 90, that is a brutal spot to recover that diffuser from.
Yeah, dangerous position. Pyromaniac will be able to take one out as well. And now for Mirage Scouts, they may be facing their first round loss. Tabby puts over Terra Joan, gets rid of the shield sitting up on Billiards, and will be able to cut off a side lane that may be available for him, but the other player has stepped out to the back corner. Just be worried about where 2 players are. With only 38 seconds left, needs to be extremely dangerous. Pyromaniac is behind bar, but unfortunately for Tabby, there's one. That's Brittany, sitting in Classical 90 Hall, who has not moved over by 90. And there's nothing they can do about it. A round victory now for our defensive side. Sinister Red will be able to hold on till the end, despite the just spectacular step in there by Monster Girl, who finds the 3K. Apparently, when you start fighting the boss and you finally manage to defeat the boss, the ads aren't as big of a deal. But I think ultimately it's not going to be how it goes for the rest of these rounds. Mirage Scouts know that they can kind of get the drop on their opponents, so they rush in swiftly, but they need to be ready and wary for the rest of the round that has to unfold.
I'm a little scared for that, right? Because Mirage Scouts, if they see, obviously Monster Girl with that aggression into the window, that spells a lot of danger for Sinister Red, right? But I don't want Mirage Scouts to get away from their game plan because, well, if you start sending things, then you're just going to, open up the door for trades, and the defensive side, 9 times out of 10, are going to end up on the top side of trades just because of, well, you're not usually going to send a million people to try and get trades. You're going to have that one anchor just trying to make calls upstairs. So overall, I don't want Mirage Scouts to switch up what they were doing, but it was also a very good switch up from Sinister Red as well. We saw them move away from a roam game and instead dared Mirage Scouts to sort of aggress onwards, and they had a lot of trouble dealing with the angles that Sinister Red sort of presented themselves with. They were holding these tight angles on the doorways. They just weren't willing to give them up, and Mirage Scouts struggled mightily against that. They weren't able to find the shot placements or whatever it may be. They weren't able to really force anyone out of those positions, and they had a lot of utility to play behind. So I love the switch up there from Sinister Red.
I don't know if... See, here's the issue here. This is what I have, Santos. When you're playing the Electro Claws on that hard wall connected to Master Bedroom, you've got to worry about nades being tossed over the top. We saw that plenty of times last game, right? Where you'd seen both attacking teams take Master Bedroom, they've got a little bit of an outlet above the wall above, and then they could just toss a nade. If you put it up on the actual rafters above, on the wooden beams, you can actually place it fairly well so that it requires a nearly perfectly timed nade on the side of the attack to actually clear that Electro Claw. And instead, from what they have right there, anywhere, a single nade, something just tossed over. Honestly, you could shoot it from below with how easy that one is at that point. You probably don't even need an IQ, you just need to gather its location with a drone first, and that's something that Mirage Scouts have plenty of when they're bringing both a Flores in a lot of the rounds, not this round, so to say, but also an F2 wielding Twitch who has those Twitch drones. They have the ability to gather the information, and on top of their natural ability to find kills, as we've already seen happen in this round as Pyromania has been taken out, it's a strategy and a team that's going to be extremely difficult to overcome, and Sinister Red need to pull out everything they can to try and separate the distance even further.
They need to take away from the rhythm that Mirage Scouts are sort of presenting themselves on this march, right? They're taking map control very, very quickly. And, well, you have Brittany down below who could potentially, get a flank going. But I'm sure that Mirage Scouts have had those drones in very effective positions. But something that I actually want to watch out for here, Scott, is the fact that Mirage only have 4 drones remaining. So they're going to have to face check a lot of these angles that are going to present themselves inside of the site. And, well, they struggled with dealing with angles in the past. But that doesn't seem to be the case in this round, as Lady Brutal is going to go down, but they have my magnets to deal with as well. Now, I'm pretty sure that Brittany was going to try and aggress up the red stairs, but there was a member of Mirage sitting there that was Tabby, trying to be that last sort of bashing in the way of Sinister Red and trying to win out that round. Now, Sinister, knowing that, well, there's only one place that potentially Mirage Scouts could push in from, but that doesn't seem to matter, right? Because Mirage Scouts are going to pull off a flawless round. They were able to just stack up around the site for free, and by then, well, Brittany, the only play that you could have really made was up the red stairway, and unfortunately, Tabby was there to sort of intercept you, right? So Mirage Scouts, again, playing that round to a T, and you saw it in the flawless round. Sinister had no answer there.
I think one of the biggest insights we can give to maybe what Sinister Red could kind of be changing and adapting to, that play for the hard wall to master bedroom didn't necessarily matter for the electric claw. What came down to it was a little bit too little of amount of pressure to deny the roam game, or to actually not have a roam game and set up. You lost one early. Yes, I get the fear behind it. You lost a player early who was roaming. You still need somebody to be there to gather information, even just to slow something down a little bit further. You have to make them fear to take a couple extra steps, slow their pacing down. Mirage Scouts, they're in a dead sprint right now. I have not seen them slow down enough to warrant thinking that Sinister Red's roam game or attempt at slowing down the game is working in the slightest, because Mirage are at a full sprint. And if it continues like this, we'll be seeing ourselves out of this game quicker than I would like, Santos. And I want to spend as much time with you as possible, I want to be here with you. And I think Sinister Red have what it takes. I think they can do it. I know they can do it, but they need to start slowing down Mirage's attack, because if they're incapable of doing that, then it's going to start getting dirty for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sinister Red is just one of the things that they could have adjusted there, Scott, was that, you need to get aggressive when you are down a player, right? And not aggressive to the point where you're going to throw your own life away, but you need to be able to find one of those kills to bring back that man advantage, and again, just throw off the timings that Mirage Scouts are finding, right? Because they've been defining the pace throughout the whole course of this game. They've been they've been able to take whatever map control they want, and it's really just come down to Sinister Red meeting them at the point of attack. And when Mirage Scouts are able to get the coverage and they're able to get the sort of angles that they necessarily need, that spelt a lot of danger for Sinister, who haven't been able to respond. Now, again, they shut down Mirage in terms of the timing right here. We see Brittany trying to shut things down from below, but taking those shots onto Monster Girl, she got a little tunnel vision, and unfortunately, Cavi is there to clean that up. But they haven't accounted for the Vigil. That's going to be hard to find, considering that drone jammer that he carries on his back, and Queen will find that kill and even up the man count.
I think one of the biggest factors that I can think for a great way to slow down Mirage would be to not allow them to have those crossfires. We saw their first loss. Once again, Brittany gets caught off guard. One player was stepping main entrance when I'd already stepped in from that trophy room near piano, and they just cascaded towards them, and Brittany was kind of just caught off, and there was really nowhere to go. Instead of holding that position on that staircase on the lower half, hold the upper half and watch the other direction. Then you're forcing them to push you from one side and not having to worry about the other side. And that's something that Sinister can kind of be working with. You can roam and also give yourself an advantageous position, and they're just not doing enough of that, and they really need to be wary of each position they're trying to go for. Queen was wary to a degree, once getting shot from the side of the living room, but Tabby was stepping up from piano and takes the kill anyways, putting themselves up yet again with a man count, something that Sinister Red have not really been able to do ever since their one-round win they got, but they're still starting to try to cascade. Everything's falling apart now. Cabby does find one, taking out 2 zeros. Brutal's waiting for an opportunity, holding Astronomy through this soft wall. A little bit too close, does get cut off by the E1. Now needs to be wary about tossing a Nitro, but it's not going to happen just yet. Monster Girl finds the kill, takes rid of Lady Brutal, and finds another on top of it, taking out Pyra. Just finishing off this round in a very quick succession after everything just started to fumble and fall apart like a house of cards.
100%. And the way that Mirage Scout are playing their attack is just, it's fundamental Siege at its finest, right? You're giving off information every single gunfight or every single drone spot that you get, and you're allowing your teammates to take the early swing. And Sinister Red have been caught off guard many a time. And then obviously Monster Girl getting aggressive onto the site. I mean, there's a reason, Scott, that she makes me call her mommy whenever I'm casting her. And that was the case, right? She was just able to aggress onto the site. It was absolutely disgusting what she was able to do there. And the anchors from Sinister Red, frankly, have not had a chance. Whenever Mirage Scouts are able to stack up around the site, I mean, to throw it back to Call of Duty 4, it was just like, you know, it was like one of those breaching sequences. Mirage Scouts are really playing these site executes in slow motion just due to the fact that Sinister Red can't get enough picks to make it uncomfortable for Mirage Scouts.
You're really bringing out Call of Duty references right there. We could talk about trigger discipline, you know.
I mean, I'm talking about a good Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's true. You know, take them out and let them pass. It's up to you. You know, just throw out some good. That's one of my favorite Call of Duty. It's Modern Warfare 2. That was a slay game. That was great. But speaking of one of my favorite games, Rainbow Six Siege. Shockingly, I know a lot of people are falling apart on the game in recent times, but I still enjoy the game. But I also play casually, so it's a different kind of game for me. But with the way that Mirage have been playing, it's a different kind of game for them as well. Sinister Red are still trying to adapt to it, and they just have been incapable of doing so. I talked about this last game. The team that can adapt faster will be the team that ultimately finds the win. And when you had Homeland, who were starting to walk over them, they were able to pull out the comeback. They were able to say, hey, you may have taken us in that first half, but we can kind of return that favor. And Girl Boss did just that. They did what they needed to do. They adapted, they overcame, and they conquered to ultimately win the map. And that's something that Sinister Red is capable of doing. I've said it before. They play fairly well. It's just coming down to the fact that they aren't setting themselves up for success as much as they need to. Brittany will start the favor, though. Just get one, taking out Cappy. Sets themselves up with that one-man advantage. Make it a 2 now as 2-0. Finds their second on a Cassie. Last 3 standing now for Mirage have questions that need to be answered, and they got plenty of time to do it now, Santos, with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left.
Sinister have been able to win out these one-on-one gunfights. They've been taking advantage of, well, just a little bit of over-aggression coming out from Mirage Scouts, right? I'm not sure if they had those positions fully droned out or what have you, but Sinister Red are taking full advantage of the fact that they can swing in knowing that Mirage Scouts take a little bit of time to set up their different angles, and hopefully they have the positioning onto that member playing inside of 90. I think that was the Jaeger of Brittany, but unfortunately no shots are being landed by 2-0s, and that allows Mirage to get that little bit of ground they need to start up that attack. And you already know that Mirage are going to try and sort of force things out a little bit, but they are struggling in this round so far. It's going to take that lion. It's going to take really just forcing these members of Sinister to be stuck inside of their positions. But with them already rotating downstairs, saying, hey, we've done our damage upstairs, come and get us now, that could prove very dangerous for the side of Mirage.
Tabby's walking from above, waiting for an opportunity to try and catch a player off guard. Does just that, but it's going to be Queen that's going to be filled on the other end. Mirage are starting to try and close this distance out, and they need to be able to do just that. E1 will go out. That's going to be the utility in the hands of Monster Girl. She's trying to assist her team. They'll get rid of the alibi down below, but there's still the actual alibi to contend with. They're sitting in the corner. That's 2-0s. Piano Room is completely locked under their control, but maybe watching a little bit too fruitfully up high. You're also going to worry about down below. That's something Mirage have been extremely strong about, Santos. We've seen that multiple times. They set up crossfires. They move in positions that catch a player off guard. And Sinister Red aren't really putting up a defensive front anymore on the second floor. They're back on a site and turtling, and that's where you're going to see Mirage start to capitalize and step forward. Monster Girl does find Pyra. Refract immediately back by 2-0s from Piano Room. Finds that kill down Skylight Hall. Stepped a little bit too far out, and you walk into the crosshairs in the loving arms of your opposition. Victoria sitting on staircase, waiting for an opportunity to drop. It'll be Tabby who drops down first. They fall down hatch and toilet. Shot from multiple directions. They'll win to fight to Lady Brutal. A second one now in Library, finding Brittany. A 3K to Tabby's name, but a 1v2 nonetheless. 2-0 is the last player standing. She's got to face off against the world now. Victoria and Tabby waiting to face. Here's a stepping in from Skylight Hall. Diffuser will go down. Finds damage from behind. Does manage to finish. Tabby defying anything. Scared of their own prowess. Shaking their head in the face of the opposition. But Victoria lying down. always clear, and knows exactly what they need to do. Waiting for an opportunity. 2-0 will throw an impact to remove out the castle barricade. The position was given away by the drone sitting inside of that hole. Victoria has moved her position as well. Now sitting in corner pocket living room, looking the wrong direction. They're trying to turn in the wrong timing. Is finding the shot, but Victoria wins the fight. The AK-12, too much to deal with, and they'll stay alive for yet another round.
That was beautiful play by Mirage Scouts there. I mean, Sinister, they put themselves in these anchor positions, but that means your guns have to be trained, and that means your head has to be on a swivel, right? Because it's difficult when you are those anchor players to say, hey, I got to fall off this ankle because someone is dropping down or whatever it may have you. And I think, well, we saw Sinister just kind of getting stuck on their angles. We saw when Tabby dropped. We saw when she picked up that first kill inside of the living room. The Jaeger of Brittany didn't really swift her head. She didn't really change her tone of direction, and you had to have known that the take was coming from that side, right? But Tabby was able to get that flick on, and unfortunately for Sinister, it was just maybe a little bit of a lack of awareness by the site players, and that's just an unfortunate way to lose the round because they started off, Scott. They started off on an absolute heater, I gotta say.
Yeah, and 2-0's ability to stay alive, know where she needs to be, rotating very well. Yeah, she may have had an interesting kill onto Tabby and shook her head in response to it as well. You know, it happens. We all have those moments. And when Tabby has 3 kills, I said it earlier, if you're facing a raid boss, you start to get shaky. You start to get scared. Maybe that's what that was. It's starting to come true. A little bit more than I thought it would. But, you know, maybe she takes it a little bit literally. But it was a great round. I think Sinister had a really good chance of taking that. But it was just smart decision-making, great acknowledgement of the information being relayed from your teammates, despite them being from beyond the grave, and Mirage Scouts were able to come out on top because of it, despite the extremely horrid start to that round that came from them. It was bad. I mean, they were hemorrhaging, so to say. It was not something a simple Band-Aid would fix, but apparently Tabby is gauze. Able to keep that clogged up, making sure there's no more bleeding, and actually able to keep them alive to the end of that round and take another round W.
Tabby, Tourniquet, they both start with a T.
There you go. That's it. Yeah, that's a better one.
Yeah, I mean, my casting dictionary may even not be that big, but I'll tell you what is big, Scott, my knowledge of just medical terms.
There you go.
It's not actually that big. Like, my mom's a nurse, and that's where my medical knowledge kind of just, like, that's where it stops, right?
My mom is a preschool teacher. Maybe that's why my vocabulary is so limited.
Is that of a preschooler?
Yeah, maybe that's why I talk to everybody as if they're preschoolers. Not because I'm rude and being, like, and talking down to them, but because I literally am just used to talking to preschoolers.
Scott, I mean, it's been a pleasure with you so far, despite both of our limited vocabularies.
Yes, it is.
Well, unfortunately, if things keep going the way that they have been going, Mirage Scouts are going to run away with this, and we're going to see a 7-1. Now, obviously, I don't want to see that because I want to see more rounds for Sinister Red. I want to spend more time with you, Scott, but that just hasn't seemed to be the case, and it's really come down to just Mirage Scouts having a lot of attacking strength. They look like old Dark Zero, if I'm going to be completely honest, right? They were just so coordinated, so well-versed on their attacks, and that teamwork was next to none. But, well, Sinister are now on their attacking side. Let's see what they're going to be able to pull off. And it all starts with drone work. It seems like they found the position of Monster Girl, but no one there to immediately take advantage. And that might be the difference in this sort of pinch that we're seeing right now, Scott. The fact that they weren't able to aggress onto Monster Girl very fastly means that she still has potential to find more of these kills. Now, if they try and drone her out again, Scott, that could be just a lot of wasted drone economy, as one might say, because you already know she's sitting there. You just kind of have to confirm the position, but Monster Girl has been allowed to exist, and she's going to drop away, and Sinister Red accomplished some map control, but not much else. Cavi, oh no.
Yeah, picking up the Tachanka. Interesting decision, but in fact, with that pick, it's going to be every single defensive operator now being played within the season here in Project Eris. Cavi is officially the first person to pick up the Tachanka, and unfortunately, it may also be the last person to pick up the Tachanka, as they're felled first. The TP-27 not big enough to get the job done, and we felled a little bit too early, so that Shamika launcher just not being able to be utilized for the side of Mirage. They look to be having fun with it, though. I mean, they've also picked up a Rook, who is also the second one now to be felled. I'll just keep my mouth shut about that one as well, as 2-0 finds it, but immediately we'll have Queen cleaned up afterwards. It's Victoria who finds that kill. Victoria's looking to find some more damage off the top. Tabby's looking as well. Hiding in Trophy Room. It'll be Monster Girl who finds the next, though, this time on a Pyromaniac, and Air Jab will be tossed down and reaching rounds as well. looking to maybe, sorry, not in Eris, but breaching rounds as well, looking to maybe keep them at bay as they attempt to step in, but this 416C is an extremely strong weapon despite the nerfs that have come through, and you've got 2 players looking to step inside. Brittany's looking through the doorway, ever getting closer, but he has a teammate on the outside. Who's here is playing from the diffuser now, though. Statuary is under control, but it'll be Victoria who finds one. Tabby finds another, and it's only now up to Lady Brutal. She does manage to take out Tabby, but she has the world on her shoulders, as this will give Mirage Scouts the ability to go to match points. And that's not where you want to be, Santos.
I mean, they still have to win out the rest of this round, though, but we're seeing some very disciplined play between Victoria and Monster. They know that the diffuser is down inside of the bedroom, so that, well, Lady Brutal has one choice, right? She has to go get this kill onto Victoria, and it's a tough angle to win, that is for sure. But this almost becomes a secondary tactical timeout. Obviously, we had that brief break, but now Lady Brutal is going to spring into action. But with the crossfires being established there from Victoria, well, it's coming a little too close to call, right? But Monster Girl is just going to run for her life, and she knows that, well, the pick has to come out, but a little bit too little too late. And Mirage Scouts are now on match point. Scott, they've been excelling at really just being explosive, right? We've seen their last second executes, and those have been very effective. And then we saw that explosion of kills that happened around the 1 minute mark of last round. Sinister have not had a response to just the unpredictable timing that Mirage Scouts have shown.
Unpredictable. I think that's a great way to phrase that one, Santos. Thank you for pulling that one out of your vocab that you say isn't actually that strong.
Unpredictable is a basic word,
man. No, it's got at least 5 letters, you know? That means it's a big word, big boy word. Yeah, I think being unpredictable is a great way to phrase it. Our Scouts are pulling out all these different strategies. They're having fun with it. It almost feels like they're just trying to experiment with what can work, what will work. That last round came a little close, obviously, as it did come down to the 1v1. Time was ultimately the deciding factor for Sinister Red being incapable of actually clutching that one out, but it's still, Mirage Scouts are coming back from a round that they had no right to win, where they started off losing 2 in brutal succession. As you saw Cavi and Cassie lose their lives, and their strange picks ultimately didn't matter, but we'll also see Thunderbird picked up now by Tabby. She's looking to dish out some damage as well, the bearing 9 in the pocket, ready to go as we drop down. I'm still iffy about the word. John tells me all the time what the name of it is. I'm still out here just calling them gumballs, but I don't know what the utility is actually called. I'm really bad about that. See, when Rotero Jones came out, I nailed it.
Yeah, it's the Kona.
I'm not calling it that. It's gumballs. I think that's why I'm forgetting it, is because I blatantly refuse to call it that. We aren't out here throwing Twitch emotes in here, so I'm not doing it.
When's the last time though that you've had like a mall gumball, like one of those like it costs a quarter to get?
That's a really good question. There was one outside of a haircut place one time I went to like 3 years ago. I think that was it.
Dude, they're
hit
so
different.
Good, but then they run out of flavor.
Yeah,
like in 20
10 seconds of happiness, and then
the
rest of your life of disappointment. It's just me IRL.
I don't know how to respond to that, Scott.
I've never found something that just so accurately describes me as a mall gumball.
I'm just going to let you sit on that one. Scott, you are not a disappointing player by any right, and neither is Cavi. Finding that kill with that MX4, that 1.5 scope, well, it wasn't really necessary there, was it, Scott? It's maybe a little bit of a clear sight picture, but that didn't seem to matter right there. And Cavi, she's looking for more kills, right? But Sinister are just running for the hills, and how would you not when Cavi is lurking around with that MX4? It's disgusting, Scott.
It's a dangerous weapon to have in anyone's hands, and especially when you're able to put it in a competent player's hands, a very strong player's hands, it's going to be something that is a force to be reckoned with. It's a different beast, so to say, as you're forced to look down that barrel and face what is ultimately to come. But this tertiary objective is actually keeping Sinister Red at bay for a little bit longer than I think maybe even Mirage Scouts were anticipating. They've now made the rotation over to the southeast edge, or should I call it the northeast edge. They're ready to step inside Laundry, maybe get an opportunity to try and take control of Memo as well, as the Rotero Joan is coming out and trying to clear somebody out of the middle section of Tetris, but ultimately no one's there. Tabby is somewhat nearby, just hear the Rotero Joan go off, and Victoria as well is looking for maybe an opportunity. 2-0, Vault's now inside Laundry Room, maybe hoping for a swift entry inside, but you still have the Pulse player Victoria on the opposing side, watching and waiting, gathering the information and looking to get a target as well.
That Selma charge is unfortunately going to be shut down. You see Monster Girl playing on that mute, and that's exactly why it's not popping off as of just yet. But Brittany finding that kill onto Tabby, could to potentially spell all of that difference. And Cassie falling as well. It's going to come down to this anchor play that we know is very strong for Mirage Scouts. And look at Brittany; she's actually still scared of anyone that could potentially flank around, and for good reason, right? Because Cavi is still upstairs, kind of just going unchecked. And oh man, actually, that was a funny team kill. Like, Cavi was just caught a little bit off guard, but now not only are they caught off guard, but they're caught off site as well. Pyra will get that diffuser down, and it seems like a potential win here for the Mirage Scouts as Cavi has to clutch out a 1v3.
Do notice one player. They'll be able to pick up Monster Girl, though, so Cavi will be able to bring it to a 2v3. However, Monster Girl is only at 20 HP. Not necessarily much to work with. It is a post-plant scenario. Monster Girl is looking to peek in now through this kitchen door, hoping to maybe segue themselves to bring it to a 2v2, but time is running out. The end is nigh, and Brittany maybe nigh as well. Cavi's flanking the other direction. Crossfire could set up, but Monster Girl doesn't even need it. Finds Brittany nonetheless. The headshot will go through. Player in the corner. Cavi's looking to snipe the fight, but Monster Girl will find it instead. They need to hop on the diffuser. Pyra's in Laundry. Does manage to find one, but a 1v1. There's no time, and Pyra will find the kill anyway. Sinister Red will stop the bleeding just so slightly, but the biggest question on my mind, Santos, is how long will this last? Or is Homeland just giving to this round?
That's a tough way to lose that round if you're Mirage, right? They played that very well because they almost pulled off that retake, right? They were able to isolate that last person inside of Laundry. It's just that, well, her presence alone means that you can't go hop on that diffuser immediately, and Mirage just needed maybe 5 more seconds to win out that round. But nonetheless, a very good effort from Sinister, and it came down to, again, it's these opening picks, Scott. I know they usually mean a lot, and every caster is going to tell you that, but they've meant even more inside of this game, right? Because whoever's been finding the opening picks, and it's usually been Mirage, they've been able to snowball that into site wins because of the amount of control that they're able to accomplish because of it. So overall, if Sinister can keep getting these openers, I have to say Mirage looking a little bit vulnerable in that last round.
I don't think I can disagree with you, Santos. I like to disagree with my co-casters just to annoy them, but I can't disagree with you.
Isn't that the number one rule to not do?
Yeah. In fact, that's one of the number one things I teach casters not to do. I'm like, please do not contradict your co-caster. Even if they say something wrong, just say it correctly the next time and then roll with it. Yeah. Because you don't want them to make you look bad, so it'll make them look bad. And unfortunately, Santos, you're not following that rule. You make me look bad all the time. Whenever these cameras come up, I'm just the worst in, and it's really not boding well for me. But obviously, match point still underway. Mirage Scouts have the opportunity to continue to clutch out, and they're playing this one a little bit more seriously. No Thunderbird in play, no Tachanka pick, no Rook. They're playing this one a tried and true Pulse, which is an interesting pick for this objective, but they've got the Malusi, the Smoke with the Toxic Babes, the Maestro with the Alda, and the Jaeger, the ADSs, to keep some of the utility that Sinister Red will dump towards the site at bay.
I don't mean to completely shift gears, Scott, but I got absolutely egoed in the alt chat. I know that is a thing that most casters aren't supposed to do, but God, I couldn't help but look, and Monster Girl tried to lift me up, and unfortunately I was shot and laid back down. Sinister maybe they're hearing me talking about them inside of the cast, and they're like, well, we're just going to tell them to absolutely just screw off. Cavi tells Brutal to screw off, though, with that Nitro cell from down below. All it was just getting that information with that heartbeat scanner, and then just pressing G on your keyboard. It really couldn't have gotten any more simple than that. But Sinister, knowing these angles, they actually almost land the shots into the person inside of the kitchen, but unfortunately the shots won't land, and that Mirage Scouts player is going to live to fight another day. That's a brutal pick, no pun intended, because it was onto Lady Brutal, but losing your zero this early, obviously those flanks are going to be very susceptible, and you have to be even more aware of where Cavi and Cassie are on the map.
I mean, big rotations they have to go through, and they're duoing it. It's almost like they're completely ignoring any other opportunity. They're going to definitely catch off these players here for Sinister off guard because they're not watching their flank in that regard. The landing push-up from that central staircase is going to be devastating. Player hops up on top. That'll be Brittany, whoever is at 90, is going to hop on top of the dresser and maybe look to catch the player behind that shield off guard, but it's not going to matter for much longer. Tabby, and no, Cassie! Talk about a 2K on Nitro from below. Takes out two of the players, Brittany and Queen. They're going to be able to go into the wayside, and this is a bad position. It's just 2 zeros and Pyromaniac left, and they have to face off against 4 players of the opposition, 2 of which have been exceedingly strong on this roam game. They also have the Cardiac Sensor to try and face off against. With only 55 seconds left, Pyra needs to decide how she wants to push this one going forward. 2-0 is also make the rotation over. Looking to be a landing side or a landing-oriented push, but Victoria's holding close. The flashes have been buffed, and they are very successful removing the retinas of the opposition, but Cassie sitting inside Study, not to be blinded and not to be outdone, does find 2-0s. A 1v4 setup in play. Pyra's looking to find it, but Cavi swings around the corner of Classical Hall, caps off the head of their opponent, and finishes this one spectacularly for this side of Mirage Scouts.
Mirage with a very dominant win there, and that is exactly what you happen, Sinister, when you ego me inside of the chat. I'm warning all of the rest of the teams inside of Project Eris. You try to ego me, well, that's exactly what's going to happen to you. No, all jokes aside there, Scott. It was such a good win there from Mirage Scouts, right? And it really highlighted the amount of teamwork that they bring to the board, right? You saw the duo roam there where they were able to pick up 2 different Nitro Cell kills, and then also just overall the gunfights that they were getting on the attacking side too. That was really just a display on teamwork. Like you talked about how your mom is a preschool teacher. That is exactly how you share the love. That is exactly what you should be teaching those kids. Just play amongst each other and, just vibe around, have a good time.
I don't think you I don't think we need to be teaching preschool kids how to jiggle peek in R6. That might be a little little on the nose. Later, okay? Like they can play Roblox or whatever they want to play. The teamwork and chemistry, Santos. The same type of teamwork and chemistry you and I have. Right, we've got the colored shirts matching. I assume I'm colorblind. Who really knows? Truly, got the matching headphones. Thank you very much, Razor. We've got the matching jokes and humor, and actually, we don't have the matching getting called out in all chats. So that's on you. I'm just trying to remind you and keep you down in the process. But what a spectacular game. I mean, that was so much fun, Santos. And the fact was Sinister Red really kept up there for a large portion of the rounds. In all honesty, Mirage Scouts had no right to win about 5 or 6 of those rounds. The majority of their round wins, it really felt like they didn't have the right to win it, where they were down 2-0 at the beginning and then just somehow make the comeback and swing around edges and just play unexpectedly, as you would call it, just kind of off the rip, not really something that they would anticipate. And that's really what Sinister Red couldn't face off against. It was just the unexpected angles that Mirage Scouts were pushing.
I talked about it in the last round too. Like, you had to keep tabs on those roamers from Mirage Scouts because of the amount of teamwork. You saw the Nitro Cells again. Just overall, Mirage did very well. And that's not to say, Sinister, that obviously that was one of their, I guess, lesser showings that we've had inside of Eris, but they're still one of the stronger teams, right? They're still sitting in the middle of the pack, and hopefully, they can get themselves back up next week. Hopefully Mirage Scouts can also keep that momentum going. But unfortunately, Scott, me and your momentum is actually going to be stopped. And that is the fakest crying face I've ever seen you put on.
Don't say that. I will be very angry with you. Don't call me.
You can yell at me all you want, Scott.
I don't cry that often, all right? I also don't look in a mirror when I cry, so I have no idea what I look like when I cry. I'm crying in my bed alone watching anime, all right? You have no right.
I didn't know you were Crow.
Oh, sorry. Did that one leak a little bit too early? We look so similar, right? Like,
no, I don't think so. No, I mean, I get mistaken for the Mexican gotcha if you know anything about CL. So, you see it. Goodness gracious. Yeah, you're chuckling over there, but. Unfortunately, Scott, this is going to end our stint amongst each other. I'm still going to be here after the break. Unfortunately, you won't be. So, Scott, why don't you take us out? You get to close out your first half that you got on the Project Eris Playday.
Well, I want to start off by thanking everybody for welcoming me with loving arms. I had a lot of scheduled times before this, but unfortunately time constraints cut that away, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much, Santos, for being my duo for this one as well. Unfortunately, Grace couldn't be here, but it worked out nonetheless. Thank you very much. Always much appreciated and much love for also our first cast together as a whole, not just for Project Eris. But thank you guys very much as well. Everyone in the audience for watching. Thank you very much for the teams, and stay tuned for even more games. 2 more to come up, casted by the lovely Light Rose and the wonderful Santos right here. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next on Project Eris.